Hello again. I'm going to read another story to you this week or today. And this one is about inventors. So this week we're talking about different inventors. Remember yesterday we read about the man who was inventing different robots. So he encountered a problem and we talked about problem and solution. So he was an inventor, and I told you that usually inventions happen when somebody has a problem. So somebody identifies a problem and then they work to find a solution. And sometimes their solution ends up being a really cool invention. Today I'm going to read a story about Thomas Edison, and he's a really famous inventor. And Thomas Edison also faced a lot of problems. He found a lot of things that were problems to him, and he worked really hard to come up with an invention to solve those problems. So what you're going to hear today is a biography. A biography is a story about a person that really existed. So this is non-fiction. It's real. It has real facts. And this one's a little bit different because you're going to see in a second that this story has illustrations. And we've always said that one of our clues for fiction and nonfiction is that usually nonfiction books have photographs, right, instead of illustrations. Well, this one has illustrations, so it kind of breaks what we've been talking about. So we're going to read about Thomas Edison. He was a real person, a real inventor. And as I'm reading, I want you to think about what kinds of problems Thomas Edison faced and what were his solutions to those problems. How did he solve his problems? So as you see, it's a biography. Our essential question is, what inventions do you know about? So I want you to pay attention to that too. What things did he invent? What things did Thomas Edison invent? So he had problems. What things did he invent to solve those problems? So it says, Thomas Edison, Inventor, by David A. Adler, illustrated by Sarah Snow. So these are illustrations. They're not photographs. They're drawings. Chapter 1. Young Tom Edison asked lots of questions. Inventors usually do ask a lot of questions. When someone told him, I don't know, Tom had one more question. He asked, why don't you know? He did lots of experiments to find out. Tom watched a goose sit on some eggs. He saw the eggs hatch. He wanted to know what would happen if he sat on eggs. So Tom made a nest. Then he put goose and chicken eggs in the nest. Next, he sat on the eggs and found out. Splat! So he was curious. He had all these questions. He wanted to know what would happen if he sat on the eggs. And what happened? They broke. He can't sit on the eggs, silly. Young Tom also knew that birds ate worms. And birds could fly. What if people ate worms? Tom guessed that they would fly too. What do you think? If people ate worms, could they fly too? So he gave a girl a cup of chopped worms and water. The girl drank it and got sick, and she didn't fly. So sometimes our inventions or our questions don't work out how we think. Thomas Edison, the boy who asked all those questions and did all those unusual experiments, became the man whose invention changed the world. So like I told you, he's a real inventor, and he invented some things that we use a lot today. Tom Edison was born in 1847. That's a long time ago. We're in 2020 and he was born in 1847 in Milan, Ohio. He was the seventh and youngest child of Sam and Nancy Edison. So he had 6 brothers and sisters, and he was the youngest. Sam had a lumber mill. Nancy had been a teacher, like me. When Tom had trouble in school, his mother became his teacher at home. Like you guys, like your mom and dad are helping you at home right now. Chapter 2. Young Tom did many of his experiments in the cellar of his home. He had lots of jars and chemicals. He wanted to keep people from messing with them. To fix the problem, he had an idea. He wrote poison on each jar. He thought that would keep others away. He was right. So since he was little, he had so many questions, and he would try to find answers to those questions. There were often smoke, strange smells, and loud noises in the Edison home. It all came from the cellar and from young Tom's experiments. Tom needed money to pay for chemicals and other things. As a result, he got a job when he was 12. That's so young. You have to know that back then, kids sometimes could get jobs. Today, that's not allowed, but back then, you could get a job when you were very young. As a result, he got a job when he was 12. He sold newspapers and candies on trains. Then, at 15, he began to write, print, and sell his own newspaper for travelers. He named it the Grand Trunk Herald. So to earn money, he would jump on trains and sell candies and newspapers, and then eventually he started writing his own newspaper. Tom wrote news of people he met on the train. He also wrote how he felt about work. The more to do, he wrote in his newspaper, the more done. Tom liked to keep busy. Tom kept very busy on the train. He even set up his own lab in the baggage car. So we still have trains today. I don't know if you've ever ridden a train. You can take a train to Santa Barbara or to Los Angeles. But before, a lot more people used to ride the train to get to places. As Tom got older, he kept doing great things. There were no telephones at the time. Instead, messages were sent through telegraph wires. They were sent in a code of dots and dashes. Tom learned the code. He got a job sending and reading telegraph messages. He found new ways to use the telegraph. Those were some of his inventions. So, when he was alive, there was no phone. There definitely weren't any cell phones. So if people wanted to communicate with each other, they had to send each other like a code, a message. So the code came in little dots, and then people were able to say like, okay, this many dots means this, and this many dots means that. So that's how they would communicate with each other if they were far away from each other. Chapter 3. When Tom grew up, he became an inventor. He invented all kinds of things that help people. At that time, burning gas lights lit homes and streets. Sometimes smoke from the lights filled the room. Sometimes fire from the lights burned home down. Let me see if you can see it. So that lamp right there, there were no light bulbs. If you look at your lamps right now, they have light bulbs. Back then they didn't. So they used gas, like the kind, when you turn on your stove and the flame comes up. They used to use gas to keep the flames on the lamps. But what would happen if the lamp breaks or falls? Then the fire spreads and it causes smoke. So there was a problem, right? These gas lamps would fill your house with smoke. Ugh. And then sometimes they would even burn houses down by accident. So isn't that a problem? Thomas Edison was going to find a solution. Tom was sure he could make a better light, you see. So he did experiments with electric light. He had lots of ideas. His notes filled hundreds of notebooks. Can you imagine like how many morning journals he would have to do? Hundreds. After more than a year of work, Tom did it. He made a light that was safe to use. The electric light is the light of the future, Tom said, and it will be my light. Edison's lights were big news. People came from all over to see them. Once they saw the Edison lights, they wanted them in their homes. Tom's lights brightened the world. Thomas Edison spent his whole life making great things. The things he made helped people everywhere. So thanks to him, we have lights today. If it weren't for him, we might still be using gas lamps with flames. That would be dangerous. But he invented a new light, like the one we use today. So Thomas Edison, thanks to his solution, we get different kind of light. So here are some pictures. Remember I told you these are photographs. I told you that this is true. It's a biography, it's non-fiction, it's true. So these were real pictures of Thomas Edison. So I believe here he is when he was 15. And then he was also responsible for making music players. So this is a really old music player. So before they didn't have iPhones or like the radio to listen to music. They had to play music in machines that look like this. So if it weren't for him, we might not have music players today. And then it says Edison invented the first machine for viewing films. Without this machine, there would be no movies. So although they didn't see movies like we do today, he invented the first machine to see film, to see movies. So if it weren't for him, maybe we wouldn't be able to see movies today. And then the most important thing here is Edison's light bulb design looks similar to the ones we use today. So that was the light bulb that he invented. It looks pretty similar to the ones we use today, right? So thanks to him, we have light bulbs. Okay, boys and girls, I want you to find an adult or a brother or sister, and I want you to tell them, one fact I learned about Thomas Edison today is, one fact I learned about Thomas Edison today is, one more time, one fact I learned about Thomas Edison today is, and you have to give that person one fact about what you learned. Okay? Good luck, and I hope you follow through.